After a life-changing accident at 27 left her paralyzed, she adopted a powerful mantra, and I love your mantra, by the way. I will focus on what I can do. Her journey of resilience led her to found Kids Food Basket, now providing 1.6 million meals annually to children in need. And if you would like to take it from there, Mary, we would greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for doing this for us.
Well, I'm glad to do it. And thank you guys so much. I was thinking about the Ambox, and I have been the proud receiver of many awards from the Ambox. Friend of the Ambox. This last year, my husband and I got the Marge Wilson Community Leadership Award. And my question was, how come he got it too? I said to Marge, what, he gave me a ride, so you gave him part of the award. You know, you actually have to do something to receive an honor, not just give a ride to someone. So anyway, I know the Ambox well. Great group. You guys do wonderful work. The disabled community, I mean, just is so lucky to have you guys be aware of what it is to be a child with a disability, which I was not. But you know, you see their little faces when you see those trike bikes, and oh, I mean, it just melts your heart. So you guys are doing really great work. And from the disabled community, we want to thank you. You know, we're all about community, right? Excuse me just a minute. I'm going to have Addie here. Maddie, push this me back just a little bit. She's going to move my wheelchair chair for me just a bit. I'm old, better on my back. So I don't ever know whether to start with my childhood, because I really think that I've weathered the storm that I have when I was adult and injured because of my childhood. I was the youngest. I am the youngest of 6 children. My dad was an attorney. My mother was a homemaker, they called it in those days. And just a very, very typical childhood. Lots of kids in the neighborhood, staying out, you know, playing games outside at night, riding our bikes, going to all the nearest rivers and creeks that we could. And just really, when I reflect back, I think that when I was a kid, I really got to be a kid. And when I was a teenager, I really got to do all the things that a teenager does. And except for I didn't steal a car with my friend, he did that. But other than that, and then I went to college and had a young single life where I was in Lansing. I worked for a lobbyist. So all those things that during my life, I think set the stage for the transition into being disabled. I was able to dance at my prom. I was able to date and hang around and do all those things when I was a young person. Unfortunately, I was not able to walk down the aisle when I was married. And out of the whole book, and I have people giving me feedback about the book all the time. And that's the one that really got people, is that I didn't even go down the aisle because I did not want to go down the aisle in a wheelchair. So I sat in the front of this big church with my back to the audience. And then when all the people got in there, it was about 350 people. I have a lot of cousins. And my 4 older brothers picked me up and turned my chair around. And my dad was already gone. So, you know, those kind of things, those markers I wish were different, but otherwise, you know, life is what you make it. It really is. I have a 9-year-old grandson, and I tell him attitude is everything. So back to my childhood, when I went to a Catholic school, you know, was, I would say, a very, very average student. I was more of those one that when the report card came, I got the check for, what do they call it? Self-control, like lack of. I think I talked a lot is what then was going on then. And I talk a lot now too, but I don't think as much. I'm too tired. So, but got through school, no problems, went to a Catholic girls' high school, still hang around with a lot of those women. Just, those kind of things when you have that stability and those wonderful, wonderful people supporting you no matter what happens, that makes it easier when there's a trauma like the one that happened to me. Excuse me a minute, I'm gonna take a drink and then I'll tell you. Thanks. So when I was working in Lansing, that was during the 90s. I graduated from college in 73. I mean, not the 90s, the 70s. And I moved back to Grand Rapids after one job because I was coordinating the state of Michigan for a ballot question committee. And so when the vote came, then in November, I was done with the job. So I moved back to Grand Rapids. I was working for my sister, the oldest in our family, and she and her husband owned a chemical company where they sold cleaning supplies to like businesses. And so I was working for her and doing some other stuff. And I met my now husband, then boyfriend, Jeff, and we were together for about 8 months where he proposed to me. It's right around Christmas. I told him I liked long engagements. So we were engaged, and the next, my injury was on May 24th. We were going to north of Muskegon, if you're familiar with Michigan's cities. There's a city up there called Shelby, and we were going up there. They have sand dune rides. So we went up there for the weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend, and we went up there. We were camping. Jeff had a child that when I met Jeff, his daughter Melissa was 5 years old. She's 52 now. I can't believe that. Anyway, so we were going up there just gonna have a nice week. It was a beautiful day. No drinking or drugs involved. We were on a flat area of land, no rain or anything. And sadly, a 7-year-old boy ran into the traffic because he was going across the street to get his mail. And he ran right in the car. Jeff saw him, swerved to to miss him, although he was already hit. And a Bronco, because it flipped. And we were in a Volkswagen Beetle that went round and round and round. And Jeff and Mel were thrown from the car through the front window, and the car was crushed around me. So when the police officers came, Jeff was sitting over on a bank, and he had a big gash in his side, and they were looking for me, couldn't find me, and then they looked inside the car. The car had gotten crushed around me, and they took 2 hours with the jaws of life to get me out of the car. God does a very, very wonderful thing for me when I don't remember any of it. 2 days later, I woke up in a hospital in Grand Rapids on a bed that was called the road arrest bed, and it laid you flat and sort of blocked your legs in there instead of strapping you. And the bed went left, came back to the middle, then right, went back and forth. And the bed was supposed to keep your fluids flowing so that you didn't get sicker. And like I said, I was out for 2 days, and I woke up and didn't know what was going on. And I had a tracheotomy, so I couldn't talk, but I could see my mother like over by the door. So she saw that I was awake, got the nurses, got the doctors, and they explained to me that my neck had been broken. And then I had a C4 or 5 spinal cord injury. So they, bring all the social workers in and everybody else and try to explain what your life is going to be like. Well, it didn't sound any good, but what was I going to do? Really, when you're posed with something like this, what are you going to say? You're either going to say, "Oh well, kill me now," or you're going to say, "I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to do the best I can." So that's what I would lay. I had a lot of time to think. Good thing on that road arrest bed, though, I had a TV and I couldn't talk. I mean, they're asking me questions and trying to read my lips. And, it's just, but I was in that hospital for 3.5 months. Then they said I was good enough to go to rehab. Well, if I was injured today like that, they'd have me out of that hospital in like 5 days. But anyway, they were going to send me to Mary Free Bed, which is a really good rehab hospital in Grand Rapids. The doctor kept on telling me that that they modeled their whole program over Craig Hospital in Detroit or in Craig Hospital in Denver. And I thought, because they have all spinal cord injuries, I thought, well, if they're that good, I better go there. So I went there for rehab and I was also there for 3.5 months. And I'm weak then and weak now. Excuse me, I have to take a drink. This is water, I assure you.
Yeah. This is not Mary Kay. Yeah.
What are you drinking over there without me? What are you drinking, Steve? You
Vodka
and
and
Joey,
burners.
your dog are drinking. What are you drinking?
Vodka and burners.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, I got out of the hospital and thought, well, I still had an engagement ring on my finger. But the one thing, when I woke up in the hospital after the couple days, Jeff wasn't there. And they said that he was in a hospital in Muskegon, which was closer to where we were going. And so he came a couple days later. But all that time when I was thinking, I knew he would never leave me. I knew it then, I know it now, and we've been married 43 years. So the next year we got married. Then I thought, well, now I'm married, I don't have to do much. I can just like lay around and watch operas and, garden and stuff. And the one thing that I really, when I was in the hospital and I was thinking so much, because I couldn't talk, is although I was only on that ventilator for like 2 weeks, I thought, I'm not going to let my disability deter me. I'm not going to let my disability define me. And the last thing, I'm not going to be a complainer. Because I've seen people that complain all the time. And I've seen the looks on other people's faces when people are complaining all the time. And I've vowed that I would not be a complainer. And except very once in a while, I complain. But in general, I'm not a complainer. In fact, I'm just so astonished that I'm still alive. My life expectancy when they told us at Craig was that I probably would be alive through maybe 1995. I can't believe it. I don't think I really heard that, but Jeff was there and told me that's what they said. So I really saw we're doing something right. I'm still breathing, I'm still alive, and I'm still going to Kids Food Basket, my favorite place to go when I feel good enough. But I was there today. So anyway, back to it. So I'm now in my 30s and just, doing stuff, very short time after I got home. There was a nurse, or no, I'm sorry, a nun from my church, and she would bring me communion. And I told her if she ever needed someone to make telephone calls, to do anything, to thank people or coordinate people or do whatever. And the next week she came back, and our local soup kitchen needed someone to coordinate drivers for the Meals on Wheels program. Now, that was a good thing. That was really important in my rehab because now I've got a job. I've got to focus because I'm task oriented. And so I started making calls, started taking on more and more volunteer work until into the 90s. I was coordinating all the routes for Meals on Wheels and was doing other stuff like their newsletter and all kinds of stuff. So I met my new and now really good friend, director of God's Kitchen. She and I developed like 3 or 4 different programs. But the other key thing that happened when I was injured, I lost all of my self-confidence. In my other jobs, I used to do public speaking, be on the radio, be on television. I didn't care. I'd go up in front of 2,000 people and talk. You couldn't get me to go anywhere. And it really took about 8 years till I felt good enough to be able to go out and do it. But then when I was at God's Kitchen, I also went back to school. I decided if I had some new knowledge, that would boost my ego, that I would feel better. So I went and got a master's in social work. And also the key thing about that is if you're ever in a situation where you can use interns, if you have a master's degree, then they think you know something, so they give you students who you work for free, right? That was a good thing. So went back, got that, and my new director at God's Kitchen said to me, you know, you can make some money even though you're getting Social Security disability. You can make a little bit of money. You should take a part-time job here. So she hired me part-time. I did that for maybe 6 months. And then she said, nah, this isn't gonna work. You gotta work full-time. And so I gave my disability status up, went back to work down there for a couple of years. And then I switched jobs after she left and was offered a job by Disability Advocates in Grand Rapids. So worked there for a couple of years. And then I went on a cruise. And during the cruise, we were down in St. Thomas, first and only cruise I ever went on. Unfortunately, my intestine blew. And the doctor says, why did you bring her on vacation? She must be, feeling awful. Well, I didn't know. I can't feel. I'm paralyzed, I can't feel that. And so they did emergency surgery on me and they got a plane to bring me back to Grand Rapids. So I decided that it was too much for me to work full time. So I turned in my what do you call it when you quit your job?
Resignation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pretty note, my resignation to them and concentrated on Kids Food Basket. So a couple of years earlier, before I went to Disability Advocates, I was with one of the volunteers down at God's Kitchen. And she told me that after she was doing her volunteer activity there, she was going to a school on the west side of our city because the principal caught a little girl. Her name was Melanie. She was 5 years old. Caught her digging through the trash, looking for food to take home to her family. Well, now with Carol gone, my friend that wasn't there, I thought, well, I'll just go over and see what this principal's doing. And it was 2 months earlier, and all that time, she had been looking for a group to not feed the kids like an after-school thing, like a Pop-Tart and some milk or something. She wanted a full-fledged meal that these kids could take home with them because they were receiving an evening meal. But at the time I met her, she had already done her due diligence and talked to other principals and nurses and teachers. And at 3 schools on the west side, they could identify 125 children that they felt were at high risk of not receiving an evening meal at home. So I went over and talked to her, and she was telling me what she couldn't find anybody to do it. And I said to her, well, I can't make any promises. So I went back down to God's Kitchen, met with my boss's boss, because I had a new boss. My boss's boss, who I knew would have to be the one to say it was okay. And she said, this is the fall of 2001. So it was right after the bombings in New York. So people are not starting new programs. They're tightening up everything. There's no money. So we're not doing it. And I said, well, we really need to feed these kids. No. So I came home that night, tried to sleep, couldn't sleep. Next day I went back down there and I said, hey, look, I want to talk to you about this. You said that the money was the problem. So what if I raise the money myself? Can I do it? Well, and honestly, I don't think they wanted to make me mad. So they let me do it. So I started the program. Thanksgiving week, I thought, well, if there's only 3 days in the week and something screws up, then yeah, it's only 3 days. But it sailed and we were feeding kids. Well, in the spring is when I went to go to Disability Advocates. And I saw our mayor at an event. And he also worked at Aquinas College, which is a private college in Grand Rapids. And they had a program called the Community Leadership Program. So I thought, well, he probably has the interns. See, back to the interns. Glad I had that MSW. They don't give you interns. So anyway, so he said, I think I can help you with that. And I said, I know, that's why I'm asking you. So he not only had a student that he already thought of, because he had arranged all these internships all over the city and probably county. And she was Bridget Clark Whitney, our director at Kids Food Basket. She had looked at those and said, none of them inspire me. And I thought, okay. So he gave her my phone number, goes, here, call her, she'll inspire you. So, and here's a program that didn't even have a name, had been proven to be successful. And by successful, I mean, you got the food, you got the volunteers, and you're feeding the kids. It's like people say, what was your vision? I say, well, I'm not much of a visionary, but I am the type of person that says, there's a bunch of kids that are hungry, let's feed them. So Bridget came on the next fall. And by that time, my second boss, when I left God's Kitchen, I said, I'm resigning, I'm taking the program with me. And she said, well, you can't do that. And I said, well, yes, I can. I said, I know that you guys aren't going to take care of this program. I said, I can, and besides, there's lots of hungry kids around. You can go feed some other hungry kids. And so she did make a gentleman's, agreement with 2 different other schools we weren't feeding. So that next fall when we started, we now had 5 schools when Bridget started. But we weren't doing anything more than feeding the kids at that point. But since then, over the last 20 years, we have we have a farm, first of all, so they can come
Farms.
plant and see how food grows and pick it later on and then eat it. And we have all kinds of curriculum that we give all the teachers. We go into the schools and bring projects and, like packing food. So we've got all that in, and we have lots and lots of feedback about the difference that stable meal in those kids' hands when they leave school means in their attendance, in their weight gain, in their test scores. There's all kinds of measures, and they're all positive. So we know we're assured that we're doing the right thing. And then now Steve's going to tell you about what he does for Kids Food Basket. He's an ambassador. He's got a little stick, don't you?
Well, I first met Mary Kay when she came on the board of the Indian Trails Camp, which I got involved with because of Ambucks. And Indian Trails Camp is a camp for people with disabilities. And when I first met her, she wheeled into the attorney's office with her husband behind her, in blue jeans and a black leather vest, and a ponytail down to his waist. And I'm thinking, who the hell is this hoodlum? And I should have thought, who the hell is this Hoodhood? Because that is her husband. Who, I mean, obviously Jeff and Mary Kay have become very, very dear friends of ours. But my first thought was, what can she do? Well, she proceeded to embarrass me by that. She has accomplished so much. And anyway, we got involved. And so now my brother and I deliver every Thursday. We go to 9 different schools. I'm an ambassador. I was last Tuesday, Giving Tuesday. I was at Spartan Nash, which is a grocery chain here in Grand Rapids, and they donate a lot to Kids Food Basket, and I was there representing. Yeah, it's just, my wife and I were the first facilitators ever back on Butterworth, 3 buildings ago. It's just a fantastic organization. I tell this story all the time about Mary Kay saying, we can talk about childhood hunger all day, or we can make a kid a sandwich. And that's just what she has done. And it fits in so well with our Ambucks mission of, what we do. Here's somebody who, when I first met her, I thought, what can she do? Well, she wrote a book that says,
Shame
what
on you.
she said.
Shame on you for thinking, what can anybody not do?
Yeah. She wrote a book that is entitled What I Can Do. And I sort of take credit that maybe she did that just to embarrass me.
Yeah, that's part of it. That was the good part.
Yeah.
So
But
I want to tell them real quick. I want to tell them how this book happened. So when we're celebrating 20 years of Kids Food Basket, got reacquainted with Mary Ann Prezashenko, the principal who caught Melanie, the little girl, digging through the trash. So I got reconnected with her. And she says to me, Mary Kay, you need to write your memoir. And I said, yeah, right. She goes, no, I even have a ghostwriter. You need to write your memoir. And I said, you know what, Mary Ann, that sounds like an awful lot of work to me. I don't think so. And well, she worked on me. But the tipping point was she told me that during the pandemic, she had known 3 people that committed suicide within a week. And she said, there's so much hopelessness out there. She said, and yours is a story of hope. You need to share your story. And I said, all right, I'll do it. And it was more work than I ever, lots of work. And I don't pretend to be an author. And Lisa has done a wonderful job of taking my little story and putting it in a way. She started out with my injury, me waking up in the hospital. So that grabs your attention right there. And then she, talks all about that. And then she goes back and talks about my childhood. And then talks about my can-do attitude. But the reason we named it What I Can Do is because that was part of my mental rehab. I'm not gonna, people say to me, well, what about this? What about that? I go, I can't think about those things. I can't do those things. So I'm laser focused and always, always concentrate on what I can do. I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Like I say, it didn't take long, and Mary Kay invited me to be on the fund development committee at Kids Food Basket. And I said to her, I don't know people with deep pockets. And she said, I don't care. I want you on the committee. And that's when I went down there, and we're sitting around the room, and everybody had to introduce themselves. And I'm the last one because I'm seated to the right of Mary Kay. And I said, I first met her when she came on the board at the Indian Trails Camp. And we're a camp for people with disabilities. My thought was, what can she do? Everybody in the room cracks up except Mary Kay. She gives me that look, which, yeah, that look right there. And so she came to an Ambucks meeting a couple weeks later to promote their Feast for Kids, their annual dinner, fundraising dinner. And she said, I introduced her, and she said, tell them the story. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, tell them the story. And I said, what story? She said, just tell them the damn story. So I told everybody the damn story about, here she is, what can she do? Well, everybody looked at me like, how can you say that? She's right there. Well, guess what, folks? For 42 years, she's been in this wheelchair. She knows, that she is, limited, but she has accomplished so much. And like I said, she and Jeff have become such dear friends of ours. And, we just, yeah, I'm wearing the Kids Food Basket logo right now. So
Thank you,
yeah,
Steve,
just for
doing
you. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, what I love most about it, and I always say this when I speak, the three things that I'm proudest about at Kids Food Basket is that we feed the kids a fruit and a vegetable every day. That's amazing. Number two, that a third of our volunteers, we have 250 volunteers a day, a third of those people are under 18. And the third and the most important is that the kids and the families that we feed, 78% of those people have had a chance to volunteer. That doesn't happen. I'm a volunteer coordinator by profession. That does not happen. When I was at Disability Advocates, I had a hell of a time trying to find places for people to go and volunteer. Because our limited, mine, I mean, I'm far more disabled than a lot of the people that volunteer at KFB. And I'm proud to say that we have 36 different groups of people with varying disabilities. A lot of them are kids that come either with a class or come with just another person and volunteer. And that's a wonderful thing. You feel like you're helping somebody else. It's all
I'd
good.
like to jump in for a second because also I'm involved in a way with Kids Food Basket. And Mary Kay, I'm glad you brought up the notion of volunteering because originally I became aware of Kids Food Basket, it's at least 10 years ago now, maybe more. And when I was a faculty member at the University of Phoenix, and we came down to Kids Food Basket to help stuff the bags that were going to be delivered at the end of the day. And so there's a lot of organizations that do that as a volunteer activity. So that was my first connection to Kids Food Basket. My second connection to Kids Food Basket was as a driver delivering the bags to the schools. And I did that for over half a year. And the feedback, to see the children, when you show up with the big boxes on my wife's Jeep and go into the schools in the inner city, particularly in Grand Rapids, is amazing. And once I didn't do it during a winter, I can't imagine the challenges of delivering the bags during the winter when it's heavy snow and everything, when it's really important to make sure the food's distributed. But it was both as a volunteer when I was volunteering originally, we were in a very old facility, back on the west side. And you remember that one. And of course, now with
yeah,
the modern facility on the east side, which is really amazing, it's totally different experience with the farm and the modern buildings and everything that go with the volunteer experience to
yeah.
help support kids' food basket. And I think, Mary Kay, I would like to hear more about how you develop that volunteerism, the connections in the community that have achieved so much in terms of the volunteers, the willingness to volunteer.
Well, you mean, how do you get someone to
How did
volunteer?
you market yourself to the Grand Rapids, and of course beyond Grand Rapids? It's not just Grand Rapids. So how much impact have you had nationwide?
Well, we don't, as far as West Michigan, we have 3 sites that cover four different uh, counties.
Counties.
And we would advertise that we needed volunteers in the newspaper, online. But my most effective way always was putting in church bulletins, especially the United Methodist people. They love to volunteer. It's part of their religion. They're great people. So that's how we would, advertise the different experiences that you could have, either, delivering, packing sack suppers, packing pickles. There's so many different jobs. And we have that huge warehouse now. And we partner with Meyer. So Steve, do you know how many schools that we deliver the weekend program?
I don't know the exact. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
it's like
we
8 or
we deliver 9 schools, Tom and I, every
Okay.
Thursday. So, but yeah,
Yeah, it's about 9 schools that we deliver to, I think, with the weekend program. And then also during the pandemic, we had to recreate everything. And I was so proud of the staff. Within 24 hours of that day that they shut everything down, one of our staff members realized that if you called, is it 211 in Grand Rapids? That's the United Way, and they'll give you the whole list, whether you need a food pantry or whatever. Well, all the food pantries had all closed down. So they had nowhere for people who had no food. I mean, you have to understand, these aren't people who are like in my kitchen. You go and look in my cupboards, there's food everywhere. But these people, we had the home visits, like when I was with the people for Meals on Wheels. There's people that have, like a bottle of mustard and 1 box of cereal, and that's all they have. And so all these people now don't have the sack, their kids bringing home those sack suppers. And we had to reorganize all of that. Some schools had personnel there, so the kids could still come and get food. But in Muskegon, which is lots of poverty, then we started doing family boxes there, and they'd pick up the family boxes. Or the other one that I thought was genius, during a big snowstorm the year before the pandemic, they took food down to the rapid. The drivers could still go on the bus, or people could still take the bus downtown. They could go right there and get food, get back on the bus and go home. That was genius, whoever figured that one out. But yeah, you really, really have to be able to pivot and, and call for volunteers. But I think my experience with volunteers is 2 things. People love to volunteer. And if you explain to them what they need to do, they'll step up. That's my real experience with volunteers. I think though, and I've said this many times, I think people, when I'm explaining what people need to do, that they think one of 2 things. Oh yeah, that's nice, Mary Kay's doing all this, I'm gonna help her. Or they look at me and think, oh yeah, she needs a lot of help. That's what that, because can't do much. And I've been very lucky to receive a lot of recognition for this, for Kids Food Basket and for my life. And people are, like I got the Presidential Citizens Medal in 2010. But one of my favorites was L'Oreal. It was called the Women of Worth, and they give $10,000 to your charity. Well, someone nominated me, and I didn't get it. And they sent me a big bag of makeup. And I always say, they said, "Dear loser," but they didn't. They said, "Dear Mary Kay, sorry you didn't, make the cut this year. Take this." And I'm thinking, great, this big bag of makeup. Next year, same thing. Third year, I won. I had to go to, not had to, we got to go to New York to get the recognition and the $10,000 check. But I didn't get any makeup. I thought, what happened here? But it's just
You're still
wonderful.
looking good. You're still looking
Yeah,
good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But they did come and have somebody, my hair was black then, it's been a few years. And they did make me all up and down me all up, and within probably 10 minutes, I met Julianne Moore, Ava Longoria, Hoda Kotb, she's the one who introduced me, Andy McDowell, Blake Lively. I met all these women that wear L'Oreal makeup, but the most interesting one, Diane Keaton. So I see Diane Keaton talking to my husband, who's a real character. And she says to me, she says, "Oh, I just met your husband." I said, "Yeah, he's something else." And she said, "You did better than that in that area than I did, because she's never been married. She did adopt a couple of kids, but she's never been married." And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Yeah, and your husband's easy on the eyes too." And so I told Jeff, she said that. He goes, "She didn't say that." And I said, "I certainly wouldn't be telling you that she said that if she
No.
didn't." Yeah, you're easy on the eye, easy on the eyes. But I feel like we're all in this together. And we're very, very lucky to live in Grand Rapids, where everybody is so generous. We have a lot of very big, wonderful, generous foundations and churches and schools. It's great. You guys
So
want me?
Mary Kay, I don't know if I've told you, but Jason Wheeler is now a good friend of mine.
Why did you see him at the Y?
Jason, yeah.
Great guy.
Oh, he's a wonderful person.
Yeah, he's a really good
and yeah. So but yeah, I mean, nobody else on this call will know who Jason Wheeler is, but
I bet, yeah, he's a great person.
he is a great person. So, but yeah.
So back to your question about around the country, we have had some areas that have asked us for like the model of how we feed kids and how we identify and how we coordinate everything with the schools and all of that. And they've had some limited success. But Bridget, I give it all to Bridget. She is one of these people that she gets up there and talk, and I watch people's faces. She's like a cheerleader. She is so passionate about what she's doing. And she is just dynamic. That's a good word, dynamic and amazing. So it's all her. I'm just along for the ride. But if you have any other questions, I'm glad to. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you for all the really wonderful and hard work you guys do. You're doing it. It's good. Except, Steve, I wish they would bring back those lunches over at the Outback.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
What happened to that lunch?
Yeah. Well, we kind of lost our contact there, but
You should go get a job there waiting.
Okay, there you go.
Then you say, "Oh, hey, about this idea, let's do this."
Yeah.
Part of being the ambassador, Steve, get with it.
Yeah, because I need more to do, Mary Kay.
I know you do.
Yeah. I'm just sitting around on my ass all day doing nothing.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any other questions? And thank you so much. Oh, what time is it? Did I go on and on and on like I
Nope.
usually do?
Nope,
No, this is perfect timing.
it is perfect. May I say, you touched my heart when you said you live in such a giving community. Um, People don't realize those things about their communities often enough. And I think we don't think of it necessarily always in a positive way. You've put a positive slant on it, just like you've put a positive slant on everything else in your life. And I just grabbed that. I'm like, maybe if we went out and we kept saying, our community is positive, look at the things they've done, that might make things more contagious and we
Yeah.
could get more volunteers.
Yeah, it's so true. It's
Mhm.
so true. And my father-in-law is a real sweetheart of a guy. He's 95 years old. And I would say George was already married. That's why I married Jeff. Just love this guy. And he's a real trooper. When I was in my early 30s, he told me that peace comes from within. And I really, really started thinking about that. And you got to organize and get your head straight and get your heart straight and get your life straight. And then you can go out and work in the community and help the community. But I love what you just said. Yeah, say thanks a lot and say, boy, you've really made a difference here. What else can we do to make our community better?
Yeah.
So interesting.
I would say one thing, I've just been listening to things here, but I had a husband get sick with cancer and we struggled through that. And I remember him saying to me at one point, he says, you find out who your friends are in these situations. And I said, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as we find out what people are made of in these situations, because just because they don't step up and help you like you thought they might have, because that's just not maybe their comfort zone and stuff. But the
Yeah.
people you don't hardly know all of a sudden come in from everywhere. And it's like, I just thought of them as a little acquaintance, and I never expected the outpour we got from some of those people. So
Right,
the
right.
community, it's not a matter of who's your friends and not your friends, but you really find out what a lot of people are made of and who they are.
Right. That's so true.
So Brenda is a new Ambuck to Walker Ambucks, and Brenda, you will have the opportunity to meet Mary Kay at some point, because I'll make sure. And because you figured that out for me, that I will get things done, when it comes to volunteering. And but no, I mean, meeting Mary Kay and getting involved with Kids Food Basket has been almost as valuable as getting involved with Ambucks. And in 1986, Al Lemieux asked me, called me and asked me if I wanted to go to an Ambuck meeting. And I said, what the hell is Ambucks? It's just been, I went because I wanted to get out of the office 1 hour a week. And it
Right.
was,
That's a good thing to do.
yeah, that's what because we were on the phone, we were produce brokers, we were on the phone all day long. And this was an excuse to get out of the office for an hour a week to have lunch. And it just, once I saw Indian Trails Camp and what we were doing, and then later on with the Amtrikes, and, it's just like, this was my calling. And it's been since 1986. So, yeah. And been probably 20 years that I met Mary Kay, and it's just yeah.
When we were on that board together and I was going off, they asked me if I wanted to stay on for like another year or something. And that's when I really got to know you, Stephen. Ambucks. Ambucks has been so supportive of all our any effort that we have. We always know we can depend on you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Well,
Well, thank you for this opportunity.
Mary Kay, I just want to say something personal for a minute. I have a really good friend, a mutual friend, Diana Cranenberg Spies, and I have heard about you for the last 30 years from Diana.
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time with her in the
Thank
last
you.
2 weeks.
I talked to her last night for about an hour.
I
Yeah.
just took your picture and said, look who I'm on a Zoom call with, and sent it to her. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. She's a sweetheart.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
So Mary Kay knows everybody in this community. Yeah.
That's
And,
all.
well,
I don't feel like I know when I do go like to the movies or the grocery shop. I think, who are all these people? I don't know any of them, but I know a lot of people, but not everybody by any means.
well,
But I will ask anybody to donate to feed kids. I'd rather do that than sell them anything. All right, we good?
well, Mary Kay, I use this comment all the time that nobody can say no if we don't ask them.
That's
And,
right.
so it's whether it's Kids Food Basket or Indian Trails Camp or Ambucks or whatever, we can ask and, yeah, maybe they won't, but maybe they will. So
Right.
it's, yeah,
For now.
we can all do something, right?
Yeah.
When I was in sales, I'd always say every no just brings me that much closer to the next yes.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There's that positive attitude again.
Yep.
It served me well, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right.
It
is
serves
anybody-
everybody well.
Yeah,
Yes.
we good.
Do we have more questions? If not, thank you so much, Mary
Oh,
Hoodhood.
you're very, very welcome. Very welcome.
This
I'll
was
see
such
you
a
guys.
gift to
I'll
get to
see
hear
you
you
guys.
speak.
Oh,
And
well,
for
we'll-
anybody, for those of you who don't know her, it's Mary Kay. I mean, her name is Mary Catherine
Mary
Hoodhood,
Kay.
but she goes by Mary Kay. And there's only one Mary Kay, and you're looking at her. And
oh, dude,
yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, and yeah, like I say, she has become such a dear friend to us, and we just feel so blessed to have known her. Yeah. So,
Sweet.
and now she'll give me
We
hell.
love you back.
Now she'll give me hell when I get to see her next. So she'll.
Oh, well, I don't give you any hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
All right, nice to meet everybody and thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
Mary
you
Kay.
very, very
Appreciate it.
much.
We appreciate
Love you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Talk to you, Steve.
Okay. Yep. Take care. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.